Hi, my name is Ishmael Naylor and today we're going to be talking about BRRR, or Buy, Refurbish, Refinance, Rent. So, what is Buy, Refurbish, Refinance, Rent? And how do we implement it? What are the pros and cons? First off, what is Buy, Refurbish, Refinance, Rent? So, you'll buy the property today with either cash or bridging. Now, it depends how much cash you have to whether you'll buy it with bridging finance or with cash. Obviously, if you buy it with bridging finance, you have to take the bridging finance into account, the cost of the bridging finance. If you buy it with cash, then obviously you've got more equity put into the property and you'll have to have that extra cash to start with. So the reason you buy it with cash is so that you can refinance it at the end. So you'll buy it with cash or bridging and you'll make an offer to the seller and you'll say it's a cash offer, because whether it's cash or bridging, they both work very quickly and they are both equivalent to cash. So once you've purchased the property, it would have to be a property that has issues or you can add value to it. You might have damp issues, you might have roof damage, you might have no kitchens, no bathrooms, it might be dated, you might have to redo the electrics, flooring. A lot of different things could be wrong with the property. You might have to put heating in, might not have a good enough EPC, might need insulating. Could be a lot of reasons, but you buy a property that needs work doing to it so you can add the value to it. Now, because it needs work doing to it, normally you can get a discount on the asking price when you're buying it cash. Sometimes they're unmortgageable anyway, so they're already discounted massively. But sometimes they're not unmortgageable, but because you're buying it cash, you'll get an even bigger discount or a discount off the asking price. So once you've bought the property and added the value by doing the work, you want to make sure that you add a decent amount of value to the property. So depending on what you buy it for, you might buy it for £50,000. You only want to spend around about £20,000 on it. Ideal scenario, where you buy it for 50, you spend 20, you've got £5,000 on legals and stamp duty, and then you've spent 75 all in, and then you refinance the property at a 75% loan to value with a mortgage company, and then your deposit on the property will be zero because the mortgage company will give you £75,000, which will pay for your purchase price and give you all the cash that you invested back out. And hopefully, if you got bridging, that would all be included. You pay for your bridging off as well, which means at the end of the day, you've just got a property effectively with no money of your own left in, because the money that is left in the property, there is still £25,000 left in the property, but that £25,000 left in the property was equity that you created by adding value to the property, by doing all the work on the property. You might have put a new kitchen, a new bathroom, you might have solved a damp issue, you might have turned single glazing to double glazing, you might have put a new driveway in, you might have even done an extension on the larger refurbs. On smaller refurbs, you would probably be doing kitchen, bathroom, redecoration, making sure the electrics and plumbing are up to spec, gas safety and stuff like this, new carpets or flooring, and then you would have added the value that way. Once you've refinanced the property, you've effectively, on the money left in, on the money you originally invested, you've got that all out, so effectively you're getting almost what some people call an infinite return. It's not an infinite return because you had the money invested in the first place and you've still got money in the property. But you have got £0 left in from what you started. So you've invested for 3 months, and that 3 months investment has, or up to maybe 6 months, and that 3 to 6 month investment has come back to you. So you've got the money back in the bank and you're still getting an income from that. So some people call that an infinite return. In reality, it's not an infinite return, because there's no infinite return, because on this scenario where you bought it for 50, spent 20, plus the £5,000 legals, you've put a £25,000 in after buying it, you've got a total of 75, and you refinance it for 100, well then there's £25,000 equity left, because if it refinances for 100, you could also have sold it for 100, and if you sold it for 100, which is a flip, then that £25,000 would be in your pocket. So then you would have got a 33% return of investment without taking in selling fees into account. So this is a very good way of turning your smaller cash deposit into a large equity and recycling your money, so you can buy one property today, do this strategy 3 to 6 months down the line, refinance it, and you've got the money back, so you can do another property 3 to 6 months down the line, got your money back, and keep going. And you can buy houses with the same money on an almost indefinite basis, and with the income from that you can either use that income or reinvest it and slowly build up your pot because you've got an income from each property. So the pros and cons behind buy, refurbish, refinance. Well, the pro is you can recycle your money and it can work for you again and again and again, the cash deposit, while you still have an income from rentals. The con is, in the current scenario, when you are doing the revalue, with this 2020 crisis or pandemic going on with coronavirus, we don't know what the property prices are going to do. So if you buy today, in 3 months' time they're saying the prices might have gone down. If they have gone down and the revalue comes in lower than expected, you won't get the high return. And if you did your numbers completely wrong because you're an amateur and you haven't looked into what it will refinance for, how much it will rent and how much it would sell for, and the revalue comes in a bit low, you might end up with a very bad yielding property and you've spent 3 to 6 months to get it, and when you sell it you make a very small profit and it was a bad mistake. But you are very, very likely, if you try and get one of these properties, to make money on it as a flip. Worst case scenario, you might end up with £5,000 or £10,000 after investing £60,000 or £70,000. So you've got a very bad return on your investment for that time period. So this is one issue. The other issue that you might have to get a buy, refurbish, refinance is that a lot of people look for this strategy at the moment, and so the properties are not going for much less than the asking price in certain areas. If you get the right area, you can get a discount. If you get the wrong area, you're going to have to pay asking price, which isn't an issue, but there won't necessarily be no money left in a deal when you refinance it. And there might not be as much profit when you sell it if you end up selling the property. So end value is an issue. The work itself is another issue. You might think you know the price of the work, but if you haven't done one before and you're not in the building trade, you might find out that the costs spiral higher than you expect. And obviously with spiraling costs, you end up with cutting into your profits and you end up making a bit less profit than you expected. So those are probably the worst things that can happen, a down value and overspending on refurb. So the other thing is they keep changing a mortgage deposit or equity that you need to put into the property. So at the moment it's 75% loan to value, but in the middle of the pandemic, of the lockdown, we had down to 60% loan to value, which means you needed a 40% deposit. So if you were doing a buy, refurb, refinance and they pulled it saying you needed the 40% left in, you obviously would have been better to flip the property, and then there might not have been a huge amount of profit in it. Depends obviously how much you purchase the property for, how much you can sell it for, and what profit margins you had left over. So on a £300,000 house, you'll find that it's different to on a £50,000 house, because if you start with 50,000, you ain't looking for an end value of 100,000, then you're looking for £25,000 left in a deal. It's different to if you're looking at buying a 300,000, maybe doing an extension on something like that and refinance it at 500,000, because then you'll end up with £100,000 of your money left in a deal, and so when you sell it you'll have bigger profit margins, or rather bigger equity, and you won't be too worried if you lose a couple of £1,000 on a refurb or £5,000 on a refurb. So it really depends on the size deals you're doing. I would recommend sticking to small deals till you've done a couple. Stick to the £100,000 mark-ish. There's various places in the country where you can get £100,000 properties, and I would suggest that you start off with these sort of properties, because then if you don't get it to work properly, your building estimates wrong or you get the figures wrong, then you haven't made such a big loss and haven't invested such a large amount of money. Please like my video, subscribe to my channel, whack that bell notification icon to get notified of the next video coming out every Tuesday.